Hi family and friends. After dropping off the rubbish, today is Thursday, so it's a good opportunity for a nice little walk. So from the rubbish pile or corner, I go to my usual walk here. But today I thought I'd have a chat to you about what's it like to learn Japanese in Japan, and just generally the way that your critical mind might interfere with your learning. Good idea to keep that checked. This way you can progress, and you don't see mistakes or errors as a reason to stop studying or learning, but one that reveals something for you so that you can learn even more. Now, at the same time, I'm walking up and down the steps for exercise, so it's a bit of wobbly and hear my breath, which I really need to do. So I've come back with my husband to live in Japan. For how long we don't know, but for me it's really a lot of revision needed. I did speak Japanese like 30 years ago, and with probably lots of mistakes, and still I wasn't fluent but conversational. So now I'm revising. Now 30 years is a long time without really practicing, but humble enough to go back to the beginnings and doing a bit of revision, just even with hiragana and katakana, which I remember teaching in primary school a long time ago, and a few other things. So I'm revising. But what I want to talk about today is actually the way your critical mind interferes sometimes with your learning process. So this is something you have to be consciously aware of, because if you're not, you will let it rule and interfere. And my advice is that you don't. Quite the opposite. So I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I had to return a reply to the head of the community organisers as to whether we would go to the meeting happening next Sunday. Now everybody here in Japan belongs to a community. Whether you actually get involved, that's optional, but we decided we would. So this is what I thought would be an easy task, just to ring their bell. It's only about 3 houses down to our place, and I would then hand over our written reply in an envelope. So I rang the bell, and they do know me, but I still said my name over the speaker. They came to the door, and I wanted to say, here's our reply. Now, I could just say, here it is. They would understand soon enough. But I realised, oh no, the word for reply came up in my brain, and it went, kotae. You don't use that word. Not in this situation. It means answer, but it's used more like in question answer, not as a reply. Even in English you would use here's our reply rather answer. So I was stuck, and I just said, I have a letter here, and handed over. But yeah, it really froze my brain up that it picked up a word that wasn't actually the word I needed to use. And of course I could have prepared for all this, and I could have just decided, well, I think that's a rubbish truck, by the way. Rubbish truck picking up all the bags of rubbish. Is quite different from Australia. We got a glimpse of it with this little bell to let us know it's coming. So if you're late, which is normally 8 o'clock, you rush to the corner of your street to deposit your bag of rubbish. Anyway, what I wanted to say is not to let this sort of thing discourage you, because I learned a lot from that. One, my brain did something right. It looked for a word that was meant answer, but wasn't appropriate in this situation. And my brain knew that as well. It would recall that, in other words, for after 30 years, in spite of all that time. So then I knew there was another word. That other word just didn't come up. And later on, of course, I checked and realized it was ohenji, which means reply. And I thought, oh, this is actually good. My brain actually did come up with an answer. If I had said that word or used that word, they would have understood, but it wouldn't. They know I'm learning, and it would have been fine regardless. So that's what I mean. Errors really tell you a lot. It tells you a lot about yourself when you're learning something new too. Whether your brain's going to butt in and say, or your ego, your conscious self is going to butt in and say, that was terrible. What do you think you're doing? Or whether it will actually focus on the task and go, all right, that wasn't the right word. There is another one. Go and find out what it is. So this makes a big difference. When your brain's or your conscious self is on board and not there to sabotage your progress, it makes a big difference. You've actually learned something from the situation. And in my studies of language, as when I was a student, and it was really important what kind of errors you make, because it really reveals where you're at in the language. So errors are essential. That's the one thing you need to learn. And they actually identify what stage you're at in the learning process. So I hope this helped you. And in the meantime, it's good to enjoy the scenes around you. I can hear the birds singing. There's a lot of flowers. Sakura is starting to bloom in our area. But there's not as many trees, sakura, but the flowers are coming out too, even in our garden. So it's a beautiful day. Another day of learning.